So, welcome everyone. I'm James Kipling, so I'm the product manager for the desktop product. I work with Mike to mostly do things to do with like the vision and the roadmap. I focus very much on the vision, Quantrix platform moving forward, and we'll see a lot more of that tomorrow in the vision and roadmap. But today my focus is going to be on showcasing Quantrix Modeler 2018. So I guess we'll jump right into it by first looking back. So those of you who were here last year, we did a little exercise where we put up some of what we call epics. Now epics, they kind of define pieces of work, big categories of the products, of the product features, where we want to focus our effort. And we actually got our participants to come up to tell us what's important. What do you customers need us to focus our efforts on? And from this, 4 of the key epics which stood out to us were solver and optimization features, things like solver and goal seek in Excel. This was a huge area of our application that was lacking. General ease of use, and this is ease of use all over the application. So everything from modeling to users using models, people accessing models on the cloud. Big focus on ease of use of the software, not only creating models, but using models. Getting started and help. Now this was a little bit surprising to us, that we have our most passionate and most likely most experienced users all in one room. And actually, you guys came to us and you said, we want more help. We want more ways of getting help. We actually want more ways of onboarding users, getting other users in the organization used to using Quantrix to obtain buy-in and to really spread, as Mike said, spread the good word. And then definitely a huge part of that is performance, scalability, and stability. So as we start to use bigger and bigger data sets, as we start to build more and more complex models, we need to make sure we keep up with the technology and provide good technology for those increased problems. As Mike said, there's been over 600 stories across the 2 product stacks, so across Quantrix Modeler and across Quantrix Cloud. The desktop team, so Ben and Brian, completed, along with Erica, who's our modeling QA and testing, completed 382 stories. And as Mike said, we'll talk about what a story means. These are user stories, so these are things that come directly from our customers, pieces of work that we divide up in certain ways in order to get things done and bring you new features and functionality. So we're going to jump straight into it now and kind of look at some of the big features. So Modeler 2018, the first thing you're going to notice is there's a new naming convention. This is not Modeler version 7. With the move to a subscription-based model, it didn't really make sense to have this kind of like major version release anymore. It makes more sense, especially for us to support you guys, to switch over to a yearly naming convention, so we know how long ago, what version you're on, and really trying to keep everyone up to date on the latest version. This doesn't mean that you're getting 1 version a year. You'll be getting 4 releases per year. And we had a lot of good feedback from the customers, from you guys here at the conference, at the seminar by the sea last year, but also externally, around how we bundled our features into these releases. And so we were doing last year for version 6, that was the first kind of major project that I worked on, we were doing what was called a quarterly release train, which means we would do the work, and whatever we had at the end of the quarter, we would release to you what was finished. But the speed of release, even though it was great for us because we could get features out the door and get them to market quicker, it was a little bit quick for some of our customers. And so what we've done now is we've moved to a major-minor staggered release pattern, which means you'll get 2 major releases a year and 2 minor releases a year. The features are generally going to be bundled into those major releases, and then any patches, bug fixes, critical things like that, we're going to get into those patch releases, which will come more frequently. And so Quantrix Modeler 2019 is kind of like the you know, the car model salesman thing. They sell you the 2018 car in 2017, but so that it didn't go out of date too soon. 2019, Modeler 2019 is going to be coming this time next year, so just so you can get your head around the kind of naming convention. We did a lot of work on the brand. I know this is a product showcase, but this is all relevant. We did a lot of work on the brand, and as Mike said, we did a lot of thinking internally about what we are, what we do, how we help transform businesses. This is our new website, so I assume most people have seen it, but if you haven't, go and check it out. It's been redesigned, and there's a lot of new kind of resources and stuff like that on the website. This also meant doing an element of product branding, so giving each product that we sell an identity. And this just helped to create a consistent feel across the platform, so that if you're in cloud, you know you're in cloud. I mean, obviously, you're on the web, you probably know that, but as we start to put in more features, you're going to know what product you're in, and that product branding will come across quite strong. So here again, just a couple of screenshots on our website, just showing you some of the work we've done. Quantrix version 6. We did a lot of work in version 6 to improve our color palette, and this wasn't just because we wanted it to look better and not like something out of the 90s, but mainly because it was for ease of use. But actually, when we look back on it, there was still a lot of inconsistency. Because of the way that we used, the developers implemented certain things, not that it was an issue, but we had about 3 or 4 different types of purple, and so and lots of different types of grays and browns and stuff. So what we did was we've done another complete refresh. We've done this with the help of Imran and some external consultants based in the UK to effectively consolidate and standardize our color palette across the applications. And we're not completely done, but we're going to be rolling in the new kind of color palettes across our product stack. And these colors weren't just chosen because they're nice, pretty colors, but we've worked with a number of tools and stuff like that to make sure they've been selected properly to aid in ease of use. So my first feature that I'm going to show you, and I hope this works because I had to make a couple of changes just because the screen size to kind of blow this up a little bit. But the first thing is the enhanced autocomplete. So let's go straight into here. This should start playing. So hopefully you can see on screen, the autocomplete now auto prompts. So as you type, it will automatically tell you contextually what is available for your use. And this isn't just item names, matrix names. This is everything. This is recursion keywords. This is functions. This is using skips. So all of that, you'll see I'm deliberately kind of typing nice and slowly here so you can see as it's happening, but it's going to automatically prompt you as to what you can type. So you'll be pressing a lot less keystrokes whilst modeling, whilst being provided with a lot more information contextually as to what's available, what's going to work right now as you're doing it. Used to be available by pressing tab, and that's a very important piece. Now you can tab and indent formulas as well. So if you want to be able to clean up your formulas, add some nice kind of formatting and indents when you have kind of very complex. I can see Rich smiling in the front here. Yeah, yeah. When I say complex formula, I can see Rich going, "Ooh, yes." But yeah, absolutely. This is gonna aid you guys, and you can add tabs as well to your formulas and make things overall a lot better. It will work with using as well. Yeah. So not only did we overhaul the autocompletes, providing context-sensitive autocompletion of formulas, but this also works in the expression editor, in filters, conditional formatting, chart labels, and descriptors. So no longer are you going to have to, when you're writing an expression somewhere, remember what that matrix was called and realize you're in a modal dialog, so you have to exit out of it, delete your formula, copy and paste, and all that. Not anymore. You're going to have the autocomplete in that dialog available for use. We now support categories, functions, recursion keywords, all of those things, and it auto prompts. You can also bring it up with the control space shortcut key, but again, tabs now reserved for indentation. Anyone know what this is? It's the Quantrix solver. So a huge, huge portion of our time, longer than expected, it's a very complex thing, optimization, surprisingly, was spent writing a Quantrix solver. This is in simplistic terms, a goal seek, but in other terms, a more complex optimization solver. So we focused on 3 optimization strategies. Those are linear optimization, so your generic linear programming, simplex solver, that kind of thing. Your smooth nonlinear, so this is a relatively quick algorithm for solving non-linear problems, which are smooth and differentiable in all places. Ben will tell me the proper definition at some point. Everywhere, contiguous and differentiable. It's in a tooltip in the app, so we can look at that. Evolutionary or genetic algorithms, they'll also be available out of the box in Quantrix, so you'll be able to implement these into your models. The configurations are savable and retrievable. They're saved in the model, so you can configure an optimization for a user to effectively just run, and they don't have to go into some cells and copy and paste a load of parameters and load them into a thing. You can set it up and have it ready to run by your users. And perhaps a key part of this, in fact, one of the biggest parts of this, is it's fully scalable, which means you configure your solver, your optimizations with the same types of ranges and category-based formula that you'd use in everywhere else in Quantrix, which means if you add a product, you don't need to go and configure another optimization for that product. It will just work. And so we're going to see some of that now and some more in the deep dive. I might have to pause it here, so if I just come over here. So here we're just actually going to be, I'm just showing you where you can actually open up the solver, so it's Tools Solver. And this is a pretty simple kind of optimization we're going to do here. So we have some formulas here to calculate how much profit we're going to make. We're going to be selling some products, and we have a variable here, marketing budget. So I'm just going to let this play. And as you can see, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to show you the different types of optimization algorithms we have available. So that's your evolutionary, smooth, nonlinear, and linear. You can adjust the settings, so things like number of iterations, timeouts, convergence delta. So get some kind of customization around how you want this to run. You can give your optimization a name. We're going to call this our marketing allocation optimization. And what we want to do here is allocate our marketing budget across these 4 quarters in the most optimum way to, in this case, optimize this total product profit. So here you go. I click and select my input ranges, which is how much I want to allocate. And I can add some constraints here using expressions. So all I'm going to say here is my total marketing budget allocation must be less than or equal to the marketing budget I've made available. I press OK. Everything seems to be validated. I press Solve. It says I already have a configuration. I'm going to overwrite that. It's going to go ahead and do a solver. So this is using a smooth nonlinear with quite a few iterations. It's found a solution. And you'll notice there that it's actually allocated that budget across those 4 quarters. So built into Quantrix, you won't be having to kind of take data out of Quantrix now, put it into Excel, do your solver, and put it back in. You can do all of this inside Quantrix. Again, another example here. This is with a stock portfolio allocation. So I'm just going to show you another example of using constraints. So one of the things we can do here, we can obviously give it a name. You've seen this before. This is a very, very common optimization problem. It's the efficient frontier. So what is the optimum allocation of your money to a certain given number of stocks with a given return and given variance or risk associated with those stocks? And so here, I'm going to set a constraint that says, I want to optimize no less than 10% risk. And then this is the key part of this demo, is you can use an expression in these constraints. So I can straight into that box say that I want the sum of this range of weights to be exactly equal to 1. So you're not going to have to create any additional kind of calculation cells or anything to check your contra constraints. You can do those directly in the optimizer panel. Again, changing some of the things here to make it a little bit quicker. We go ahead and solve that. It will find a solution to this problem, and it will put those values directly into those cells. You can see those weightings have changed there. So this is a pretty big product feature for us. Dynamic constraints. Now, dynamic constraints, we're going to kind of talk about this through an example, okay? I have a list of continents here. And I have another category, which is my countries. And for each of those countries, I tell Quantrix which continent that country is in. I have a list of cities in a category. And for each of those cities, I tell Quantrix which country those cities are in. So just bear this data in mind. This is what we've told Quantrix. The idea behind the dynamic constraint is when I select from this list of continents, I select Europe in this case. This is a standard constrained list. What I can do is I can tell this cell here where to get its constraint. And I can do that via an expression. Meaning to say here, it's only going to show me European countries. And again, you can nest these things. So I can ensure that when I select Germany, this is only going to show me German cities. So for validating your user inputs, this is a whole step in the right direction. And again, your formulas are just going to work as normal using as there. So there's 3 different ways of configuring this, and in the deep dive, we'll go into each of these, and we'll set up some dynamic constraints. But the idea is you can pull your values directly from a range of cells, so cell values. You can create it via a select expression. We have a helpful UI to help you write that select. Or if you feel adept, you can create an entirely calculated expression in order to calculate those values. And let's see an example of this now. So I select Asia. You'll see here that it shows me a list of the Asian countries available. I select China, and it will show me, I think it's Shanghai and Beijing. And I can select that, and that's constrained that list. And just to show you I'm not cheating, we can go straight in there and select Europe, and it will only show me European cities. I can go ahead, select Germany, and I believe it's Munich.
What does it show if you don't go in that order?
If you don't go in that order? Because it's based on an empty cell, it's going to show you no matches available. So it's going to ensure that you've effectively done that first step of data validation. So we've had a lot of discussion, the partner session, and also I've been speaking to some of you guys this morning. And we have not performance issues, but performance considerations when it comes to sparsity within models. Sparsity arises from the fact that Quantrix is a multi-dimensional modeling engine. Once you start to introduce, say, 3, 4 dimensions, every time you add, say, 10 items to a dimension, you're making your model 10 times bigger. And if you do that for 3 different dimensions, you've just made your model 1,000 times bigger. And so you have to bear these things in mind when you're creating models, that models can expand exponentially. So we've always had the concept of groups and grouping in Quantrix. Now, groups are a very efficient structure. They group items within a category. They have their limitations, okay? You can't slice and dice on groups. Watch this space. Trust us, we're working on that. But in order to make it easier for you guys to configure your models for performance, we had to make grouping easier. And we had to make the act of grouping, it was kind of clumsy. It was quite hard to get things in and out of groups. And so for that, we've made some quite huge grouping improvements. So grouping hierarchy is top-down. This makes it easier to create a group retrospectively if you didn't realize that a group was needed beforehand. And now, most importantly, you can move items inside and out of a group using shortcut keys. This was something you couldn't do before. If you remember, you had to ungroup everything, move the item out, regroup everything. You don't need to do that anymore. So you can't see my keystrokes here, but what you will be able to see is I press kind of Control-Alt-Right, and it goes into actual, and again Control-Alt-Right, and it comes out and goes into forecast. So very quickly, you can reconfigure your group structures. I'm going to show you a couple of the group top-down grouping here. So when I Control-G as normal, you'll see that it actually creates the group above there. I can add in products and then immediately go straight into that product group and add some products. And there's a number of other keyboard shortcuts. They're provided in the release notes. And you can, for example, with the keyboard shortcuts, you can create an item either inside or outside a group, depending on what you press. So perhaps, I think this is probably my favorite feature of the new Quantrix Modeler 2018. This is something we've talked about in the past with you guys at the seminar. We've kind of known about it. We've done some things for select customers in the past, but I'm pleased to announce that this is now going to be available to all users of Quantrix Modeler out the box. It works on cloud. You may have seen something this morning on cloud when Ben was demoing, and you might have thought, that's impossible. How did they do that? Well, it was using this new feature, and that is called category item generation. So what category item generation is it's dynamically creating items based on cell data. If you think about a model where you have a list of cell values, quite often you have to create something like an intra-model data link to turn those list of values into a unique list of item values within a category. You don't need to do that anymore. It's completely real-time and dynamic, and this reduces the need for scripting. So I'm going to give you an example here. Item count generation. So here I have a category. It's got this little symbol, this icon in it here, indicating this is a generated item. And I have a cell here. There's this number of items is the item, and I have a cell with the number 1 inside it. If I change that number to 2, I want it to add another item to it. If I change it to 3, I want it to add another item in it. And so this way, I can dynamically size my category. So let's see a use case of this in action. Here you go. I go in, I add a year. I go in, I add another year. So in a very simple way to configure this, you can immediately scale up your model using dynamic user input. Perhaps more importantly is item name generation. Here I have a list of data. I have some invoice amounts, and I have that by customer and by quarter. And so, as you imagine, I'd have a very nice formula which is going to sum using customer as customer. But here, what happens if Val comes along and buys 100 in Q4? Well, obviously my customer category doesn't have Val as an item. If I'd done this properly, I would have set up a data link in the past. You don't need to do that now. This will, in real time, dynamically add Val to that list. And again, your formulas will work as intended. Let's see this in action. So you can see here, I'm going to show here, I add 100. I think I do Bob first. And we're going to add in Bob for Q3. You can see that 100 goes straight in over there. But then here's the kicker. There we go. Let's do 400 for Val. And in real time, it adds that item across there in that matrix. And the formula's already working. So I can allocate that value to that matrix. So this is going to massively aid in keeping your models dynamically scalable as your data sets change. This is something we've never done before, and something I'm pleased to announce that you'll all be able to use right now. Oh, there's Mike as well. We added Mike. You can also use this item name generation to do a basic union. So here I have 2 lists. I have 2 categories, 2 lists of items. I have some customers, and I have some leads. And I want to create a unioned category, which is contacts. That means that when I add Erica to my leads, I'd want Erica not only to go into my contact list, but to be put in there in alphabetical order. And that's possible now with the basic union item names generation. So let's see it in action. Now you'll see that in the deep dive tomorrow, actually. Completely forgot about that. So if we look back at what we talked about before, when we talked about interfacing with you guys at the conference, what came back to us was overwhelmingly, we want places to go for help. We want places to help each other, and for that, we wanted to improve our community support. So obviously with your subscription, everyone gets technical support staffed over in the UK by our support help desk. It's around 16 members of staff on that, for pretty much covers all time zones. And they're great when it comes to troubleshooting very complex technical questions. But what it doesn't provide, the only real kind of support you have right now is this guy sitting at the front, Mr. Rich Lopez, Quantrix Authority. But we wanted to augment Rich's what he's doing for the community. And if you stumbled across this in our website, well done, you found an Easter egg. But actually, this has been around for a couple of months now. It's been coming soon. But I'm pleased to announce that we now have the answers.quantrix.com. So how many of you in here have ever used Stack Overflow? Well, it's a fair number. So what we've done is a lot. How many have used the Quantrix Forum? Probably the same people. Well, so so one of the things you would have noticed about the Quantrix Forum, it's a rather outdated technology, and I'll give you an example of what can happen. Okay, we can have a really good question that lots of people would need the answer to. The thing is, that answer's on page 7, and it's the third answer down. Okay, and so as a user, you're probably going to give up before you get to page 7 and think, oh, no one's answered this question. I'm stuck, I'm lost, I'm by myself. So we've moved to a Stack Overflow-esque style platform, which is the answers.quantrix.com. So what this allows you to do is to ask a question of the community. This is for anything, modeling questions, cloud questions, general discussion on Quantrix. It will automatically, if you search in there, it will find relevant questions related to your question, so you can see if someone's asked this before. So you can see here I'm typing in script, and it's saying that there's a question on scripting. So it will have some kind of context searching. It will search both the question title and also the question body to find out if anyone's been stuck in the same way as you before. But what's really key about this is that it relies on the community. So not only to provide those answers, but to upvote and to select best answers. And what this does is that the best answers, the answers that you guys come up with in the community to help each other, is not going to be lost in the weeds on page 7 somewhere. It's going to be bubbled up to the top of the answers for each question. And then there's a concept of reputation as well. So obviously having your answer selected as the best answer, you can improve your reputation within the Quantrix community. So bit of gamification for you there. So that's all from me. Are there any questions?